my word, this is freezing.
Please rise in body or spirit as you are able as we sing number 1012 from the Teal hymnal, When I Am Frightened.
Good morning. Brr. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem, Oregon. I am Gloria Holland, serving as your celebrant, one of your celebrants this morning, along with Sarah Pickett, Barbara Stebbins-Bose, and Nadine LaChemina. I did it, okay. We're very excited today to be presenting our third annual service to celebrate you. We will be telling the stories of 8 of our members who have been with us many years and who have contributed to Unitarian Universalism in unique and compelling ways. For many of the typical portions of this service, we will be sharing the UU journeys of these often hardworking and always beautiful friends. Before continuing with this very special service, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the Calapuyans, who for 14,000 years, hard to imagine, 14,000 years, inhabited the land on which we now stand. These once thriving indigenous souls numbered 15,000 people. Most of today's 4,000 Calapuyans are members of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde community. May we be thankful to those who preceded us and hopeful for those who follow.
Many UUs come from other Christian faiths, realizing that their childhood religions were just not a good fit. Such is the case with Stephanie Jernstedt, who was raised Methodist and became Presbyterian for a short time in her young adult years. But these belief systems just didn't seem right, and Stephanie was searching for a congregation and hoping to find one that her husband, Don Wolfe, would attend with her. In 2002, Don and Stephanie decided to try UUCS and visited on, of all days, Halloween. Reverend Rick was talking about Celtic traditions and says, Stephanie, "We loved it." According to Stephanie, Don really didn't want to go to church, but after a lengthy talk with Reverend Rick, he decided to come back. The real clincher in the couple's decision to return was the dedication of Hanneman Hall, where they had a string quartet, appetizers, and wine. Now that's an event. Stephanie was hooked. She felt welcomed as she met many interesting and well-educated people with ideas they weren't afraid to share. In other churches, she often felt she had to keep her thoughts to herself, afraid to say anything because she was just too liberal. The couple became involved right away. They took a class led by Chuck and Ellen Howard, and after that, Don and Stephanie taught a class themselves. During this time, they met and became good friends with members Paul and Dana Parmley, who live close to them in Silverton. Stephanie joined UUCS because, she says, Marge French told her the church could use her talents on the membership committee. Well, there's nothing like flattery. It wasn't long before Stephanie became chair of the membership committee. Over the years, she has taught art classes, belonged to a gossipy group called Stitch and led the planning for the UU Women's Retreat for many years, served on the board, and is currently working on the Safer Congregations Committee. Perhaps Stephanie's favorite UU memory is her participation in the General Assembly held in Portland a few years ago.
I invite you to reflect on the ways that you have been involved in the congregation or would like to be as we say our affirmation. Love is our doctrine, compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes and serve the needs of our world.
Each week, we light 3 chalices. The first chalice is for this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. And we light our second chalice for our partner church in Siemenfalva, Transylvania, Romania. And our third chalice we light for our children and youth in our religious education program and for all the children of the world. Thank you, Nadine. Stephanie Jernstedt's husband, Don Wolf, grew up completely unchurched. His father firmly believed that one could never be closer to God than in the woods. So, Don read a lot and came up with a chunk of Taoism. Sometimes, as a kid, Don went to church with friends, but nothing fit. However, Don tells us that he actually became a Unitarian because of the TV show MASH. For those of you who remember MASH, in one episode, Father Mulcahy was in trouble. So Colonel Potter called up the chief of chaplains, who apparently was supportive of Mulcahy, and when the chief answered the phone himself, Potter exclaimed, "The man answers his own phone. He must be a Unitarian." Well, Don really did not want to go to church, but his wife, Stephanie, was in search of something they both might enjoy, and Don had seen the Unitarian Universalist sign, so he decided to try it. During that first service, as we've heard, which Don and Stephanie attended, which was on Halloween, Reverend Rick talked about other religions and tied his talk into a Halloween theme. Don was impressed with this different approach to religion, so as we've heard, he met with Reverend Rick, and he came out agreeing to attend again with Stephanie. Well, Don and Stephanie attended a newcomers class, and Rick, being Rick, convinced them, the couple, to start a book group, which they led for about 6 years. They also became involved with a small group called Evensong, led by Chuck and Ellen Howard, a lovely couple many of you may remember. Then, along with the Howards and David Bowes, Don worked to create a governance style of religious ministry, which involves a structure that shares the power with the minister through teams and committees, affording the congregation a more democratic process in governance. Both Don and Stephanie were very involved in that transition team, which created Marvelous Mondays. Occurring one time a month, the leaders of each team met and shared their mission and vision. Don also served on the fellowship team, which looked at various social activities. He spent time on the board, served on the committee to select the wonderful Kate Lohr as an intern minister, and recently he led the work on rewriting the vision and mission statements, and currently he's on a committee that's looking at rewriting our bylaws. We are thrilled that Don and Stephanie, we want to give a wave back there. There they are, Don and Stephanie. We're thrilled that you two seem to have found a fit. Thank you. And now, would you please join me in singing The Flame into Life? Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Reading today. Are you okay? Hi, guys. Happy Halloween to everyone. Hello. Hi. Okay, we have Miss Gloria, or Gigi, here today to read a special story.
Thank you. Hi. So I'm Gigi, and I'm going to read a story to you today about one of my very favorite friends. Can everybody hear me? They're saying no. I could hold it closer, maybe? Is that okay? Oh, well, let me. That's fine. Okay. So my very special friend is a man called Andy, and you can see his picture right up there. That's my friend Andy. But if you turn around, Andy is right back there. He's wearing a mask with his wife Lana, and if you wave back there, yeah, you guys want to wave to Andy and Lana? They're back there. Okay. So today I'm going to be telling a story about Andy Driscoll, and I just want you folks to know some of the words I use in this story might be words that you don't recognize, but I'm reading the story also for these people out here, and they will recognize. So just follow along. It's kind of a cool story. Okay, here we go. Andy Driscoll can trace his Unitarian heritage back to the people on the Mayflower. And the Mayflower was one of the very first boats that ever came to America, so that's a pretty long time ago. We are reminded that Unitarians were born from the religious movements brought to the New World by the Pilgrims. And Andy can trace his own Unitarian roots back 7 generations. 7. That's a long time. And he's very, very proud of that. Now, Andy's mother was a Unitarian since her birth in Concord, Massachusetts, which kind of was a starting point and a stronghold for American Unitarianism and home to the ideals of transcendentalism. Andy actually grew up with cousins of a man named Ralph Waldo Emerson, who's very important in the Unitarian movement. And one of these cousins that Andy grew up with has been in charge of Emerson's house, which is now a museum. Andy tells us that his maternal great-grandmother, that means the people on his mommy's side, okay? His maternal great-grandmother was born in Plymouth at home in a house called the Old Colony Club, currently the Men's Club of Concord. This great-grandfather was Unitarian and attended Harvard. Now, Harvard is a really fancy-pants school where a lot of really smart people go. So for somebody to go to Harvard was really cool. And later, he became a very well-respected doctor. At one point, Andy's maternal grandfather saw his way to St. Paul, Minnesota, where he became a charter member of the then newly constructed Unitarian Church. This grandfather lived on the ground floor of a house in which Andy and his siblings, that's his brothers and sisters, lived upstairs. And we know that this was a true Unitarian family that lived in this house. Now, this was his mom's side of the family. His dad's side of the family, which we call the paternal side of Andy's family, were Presbyterians, and we've heard about them before today. That's a different church, the Presbyterian Church. And that church was located 1.5 blocks away from the Unitarian Church. And that was called the St. Paul Presbyterian Church. It's easy to see how Andy's mother grew up Unitarian and his father grew up Presbyterian, but they didn't live very far away from each other. So you want to know what happened when they grew up? Yeah? Well, you know what? They met each other, and they really liked each other. So they fell in love, and they got married. So it was really fortunate for Andy that his dad was only too happy, because his dad was Presbyterian, is only too happy to let his children grow up Unitarian. So Andy got the best of the deal. Before arriving in St. Paul, Andy's Unitarian grandfather served as choir master at Harvard University, and his sister attended Harvard, becoming a Unitarian pastoral minister, and is now buried at the Concord Cemetery along with Emerson, Thoreau, and several notable literary people. Unitarianism runs deep in this family. So after arriving in St. Paul, where Andy was born, the Driscoll children, Andy and his brothers and sisters, attended the Unitarian Church, where they really enjoyed their RE experience. So when Andy was a little boy, he was doing the same thing you're doing right now. He went to the Unitarian RE, and he had a teacher just like Molly. He really liked it. And his mother became very, very involved in the choir. So there you go. Now, I want to explain to the people out here, it should be noted that Andy's mother became very involved and served on the board of St. Paul's Planned Parenthood. This was a long time ago. And this certainly must have left an impression on her children. Today, Andy strongly believes that his experience with RE and with the strong women in his life made him the good person he is today. Now, after high school, Andy attended Carleton College, where he met a really nice lady named Karen. And she was a liberal, socially active agnostic. Now, while Karen was not as involved with the Unitarian Church as Andy was, he became as active as possible whenever and wherever he could. And when Andy and Karen moved to Woods Hole on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, they lived there for 2 years, and Andy just jumped in and became involved right away. But then their lives took them to a place called Bainbridge Island, Washington, where they lived for 30 years. Andy found himself to be, as many of us are, too busy in his career as a marine biologist, which is pretty cool, to attend church very often. And he had to make special trips to Seattle, which is a big town like Portland. And he had to make special trips to find a Unitarian congregation. His children, when they were little like you, his children attended RE when they could, but their religious education and experience was spotty at best. Now, in 1998, Andy and Karen moved to another town called Port Townsend, Washington, where Andy got heavily involved with the UU congregation there. Port Townsend is a liberal town, and the church was growing. Within 3 or 4 years, he was serving on the committee to choose a new full-time minister. His Unitarian minister's sister and his wife encouraged him to sit on the committee, where he opened and closed every meeting, every week, for a year. He felt he had a big impact on the decision to call Reverend Bruce Body to the ministry in Port Townsend. Andy considers this his biggest contribution to the Unitarian movement. Well, in time, Andy's wife Karen passed away. And so he decided to move to Salem. At UUCS, he met a really nice lady named Lana. And she was working as a host one Sunday, and they really liked each other. So you know what happened? Can you guess? What do you think? They got married. They did. Yeah. They liked each other so much that they got married. And they were married by the same Reverend Bruce Body, who Andy had helped find a home at the UU Church in Port Townsend. On August 7th, 2023, Andy and Lana celebrated their 7th anniversary. We are proud and pleased to know Andy and Lana Driscoll and to celebrate the many generations of the UU faith that Andy brings to UUCS. Thank you, Andy.
Okay, if everybody in the center could please make the love arch, we will be on our way.
One person who has exuded compassion and gratitude in her daily life is Dina Trieste. Most recently seen at UUCS through her years of being a facilitator for the Souls Matter Connections groups and for being on the Committee of Ministry. Here is, as she puts it, the long saga of how I arrived at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. Dina says, I was raised as a member of the Presbyterian Church. I attended Sunday school and church services at our Presbyterian church until high school, and then we moved to another town and joined another Presbyterian church. My family was active in the church. My mother sang in the choir, and my dad was church treasurer. We had a very active youth group when I was in high school with young seminarians leading the youth. We drew lots of kids from other faiths to participate because we had such fun activities. In the summer months, for 10 years of my growing up, we spent summer months in an intentional community in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. There were approximately 50 families. On Sundays, we would gather in the home of the founder and held a community worship service, the men taking turns putting the service together. There were some accomplished musicians who added their music. The gathering was non-denominational, but did appear basically Protestant. I think this kind of participation in worship influenced me to be ecumenical. My father influenced me to take a broader look at religions. My mother came from a Protestant upbringing in the Methodist Church. Her parents were Norwegian immigrants, and as a child, I remember sitting at the table after dinner while grandfather read the Bible and we said prayers. One day, when I was in high school, I remember going to my father and being really upset about a sermon I'd heard that day emphasizing belief in the Trinity and Jesus as the only way to heaven. I was no longer buying it. And during that conversation, my father mentioned that he had been attending a Unitarian meeting once a month in an old meeting house nearby. I just filed that information away. Some years later, when I was married and had 2 children, that my husband and I were looking into finding a church. A friend took us to a Unitarian fellowship in our county. I liked it, and it felt good fit for us, my husband being an ex-Catholic and adverse to most organized religions. We began attending that Unitarian fellowship. During that time, I was teaching in a private preschool in a Presbyterian church, and I ended up hiring the Unitarian minister's wife to teach another class. After a couple of years, we moved to Florida, and there we found a large Unitarian church in St. Petersburg. I became involved in the RE program. 2 years later, we moved to Los Angeles. We were there for less than a year, but managed to attend a Unitarian church while there. From LA, we moved to Oregon. I again looked for a Unitarian church and found the fellowship on 19th Avenue. We were sporadic attenders for many years. I didn't join until many years later after my children were grown. I had remarried and had 2 stepsons. She may have had stepstones in her garden, but she had 2 stepsons, and were once again looking for a place where she and her family could go for a church for all of us. We got involved in the RE program and joined the church in 1990. At least that's what it says on her name tag. In my early years of reading materials used for a UURE, I was impressed with some of the influence of Sophia Foz, a leading educator in Union Theological Seminary in religious education. She was also the first female professor to be ordained as a Unitarian minister. She worked for the American Unitarian Association, editing children's materials for the New Beacon series, a new religious curriculum Foz teaching and writing focused on a method of experiential learning that she hoped would enable children to develop their own ideas about spirituality and religion. I was drawn to this approach of religious education for young children. It also fit with my approach to early childhood education. Here it is, 23 years later, and I am still coming to UUCS and feel it is my church home, a place where I continually can explore my spirituality and feel a connection with my fellow travelers. And there is Dina right there. Thank you, Dina. May we be grateful for the compassionate example of how to live that Dina has shown us. Thank you.
One person who has been involved with many aspects of UUCS congregational life, including Lifeline's lay ministry, is Lynn Cardiff. Lynn Cardiff, born in 1945, grew up in a family where going to church was expected. Her mother was Catholic and her father mainstream Christian. From the age of 4 until 20, Lynn attended the First Christian Disciples of Christ Church. She remembers that when she turned 12, she was eligible to be baptized, but her mother unexpectedly objected. Because she didn't get baptized, Lynn worried for a long time that she would go to hell. Later, Lynn thought more about why her mother objected so much and thinks it probably had to do with the loss of her mother's very first baby, a daughter named Eileen. She died of pneumonia. Her mother, Lynn believes, developed an anger towards God for allowing this tragedy, and as a result, stopped attending church regularly and refused to have Lynn baptized. Lynn married a practicing Methodist. They both attended church and sang in the choir. They had 2 children, Dave and Carrie Lynn. In 1969, she and the family moved to Salem, Oregon from California. She remembers that a surprising amount of snow fell that year. Initially, they all attended Morningside Methodist, where the kids attended Sunday school and Lynn sang in the choir. Music is an important part of Lynn's life. She learned to play the piano at age 7. Later, she often accompanied others and played the hymns for the congregation. If she was hanging around church with time to kill, she would sit at the piano and play for herself. After Lynn and her husband separated, a friend suggested she might like to attend the First Unitarian Society of Salem on the corner of 19th and Bremen. She recalls it was a time when a student minister would visit the congregation and Willamette professors were guest speakers. Lynn remembers the exact date she signed the membership book and is astonished. September 23rd, 1973. Do the math. 50 years ago. Why does Lynn continue to come back? In her words, first, it was encouragement from a trusted friend. She liked that services were often lay-led. Early on, as a single young parent with 2 children, she found a welcoming and accepting community, one that respected independence of thought, with discussions after the service. It was cerebral, with ideas that made sense to her, more so than the Christian beliefs and practices she had grown up with. The community complemented her professional activities as an elementary and middle school teacher and student counselor. It is not an overstatement that during this half-century of UUCS membership, Lynn has volunteered or been cajoled into serving on every team and committee that has existed, not just once, but multiple times. RE teacher, choir member, volunteer office assistant, facilities chair, Women's Alliance, pledge team, greeter, board member, board chair, and on and on. Her children, grandchildren, and now great-grandchildren have pulled her into RE again and again, where her mentoring skills, experience, and patience are put to very good use. In Lynn's words, what keeps her coming back and serving are the people, the principles, and the politics. Let me state, as someone from the receiving end of her kindness, integrity, generosity, and persistent building of good relations, that She is a treasure to this community.
Hello, my name is Kathy Rowell. I'm a Lifeline's lay minister, and I have some concerns, primarily concerns to read today. The first, actually this is a joy, so I was wrong. This is from Alan Holland. We are glad to be home after 2 weeks touring historic sites in Mexico. It was wonderful, but our normal is good too. We have a concern from Leslie Zeigen, a couple concerns. Our friend Jeanette facing cancer surgery, and 5-month-old Laura facing more heart surgery. And then I have a concern from Bob and Leslie. Oh, sorry, I'm slowing down. Okay, good. I have another concern from Bob and Leslie Zeigen. Our sister-in-law, Vivian Silver, a noted peace activist in Israel, has been held by Hamas since October 1st. Let's have a moment of silence for that one. And finally, 2 more concerns from Davida Thomas. One is a joy. Well, no, it's more of a concern, I guess. Well, she just wrote, my friend Maria, who has a job interview tomorrow. And then she also wrote a concern about Kelly, her husband's knee pain. Finally, we will light one more candle for those joys and concerns that we all hold in our hearts and remain unspoken and unwritten. At Lifeline's Lay Ministry, if you need a supportive listener or a helping hand, you can contact us at the email address that's up on the screen. Thank you.
On a warm July day in 1923, in Laval, Wisconsin, a great occurrence was happening at the Boyden home. The 3 eldest children had been sent away for the night, and they came rushing back in the morning, excited to see the birth of the new ones in the kitchen. The chicks had hatched. Oh, it was so exciting. Oh, yeah, their mom had given birth to a new sister. Her name was Marge. Marge French grew up a preacher's kid. Her father, the Reverend William Sheldon Boyden, was an Advent Christian minister. For a while in Montana, he was a circuit minister for the Congregational denomination. And the story goes, he didn't really like riding the horse that much. So if no one was looking and it was a short distance, he would just walk beside the horse to the next house. You hear stories of what it's like to grow up a PK, preacher's kid, that they're either rebellious hellions or the perfect role models who too often are quickly judged by others' expectations. By nature, Marge was a good kid who was proud of her father and family and just liked life. Not that she didn't have her antics. She remembers visiting her best friend who was selling movie tickets on a Sunday. And then someone from her dad's congregation saw them on a Sunday, no less. Well, she was ratted out by the friend, but nothing much really happened. She also remembers sneaking out late one night at the window with friends to steal some watermelons, and one night for a late night swim. Church was very much a center of their lives. On Sunday alone, there was Sunday school, morning service, evening young people's group, and then the night service. And then Wednesdays was the prayer meeting, where, when Marge grew older, she would play the piano for the session. Being a preacher's kid meant it was her dad who was the most influential in terms of religion. Although more fundamentalist than Marge turned out to be, her dad wasn't all fire and brimstone and heaven and hell. He was about love, kindness, and the teachings of Jesus. She certainly questioned things as a child, like the wording of the Apostles' Creed, and the idea of a miracle birth was just a little too much for her to believe. But she never gave up on her faith of goodness, of love, of having what you need inside of you. When she got to college, Aurora College in Illinois, she was ready for all the new ideas and people she got to meet. It was 1941, and for her tenure there, it seemed more like a women's college, since most of the men were off fighting World War II. College allowed Marge the opportunity to continue her questioning of life. What is the meaning of life? And getting to meet people from different parts of the country widened her view of the world and made her want to see and learn more. While at college, she met someone that now some of us know. But their story comes later. After college, she found herself married, being a mother and teaching junior high school ESL, English as a Second Language, in Ventura, California. While there, she realized how much she enjoyed teaching and went on to get an MA in ESL from Flagstaff, Arizona. After 20 years, though, her daughters were grown, her marriage was in ruins. So, divorced, alone, and needing a job, she started applying and wound up in Salem, Oregon, at Chemeketa College. The year 1974. She taught ESL there for 17 years and had one of the best times of her life, as well as most influential. She loved teaching and being able to take sabbaticals and go to Japan, Costa Rica, and Micronesia to learn about the diversity in the world. Similar to the UU principles of the inherent worth and dignity of everyone and the interconnected web of which we are a part, these trips during her sabbaticals showed her the beauty and wonder of diverse languages, cultures, and people. Experiences that shaped how Marge saw and interacted with the world long after the sabbaticals were over, continuing even to this day. But in 1974, when she first came to Salem, she found herself alone, no friends, needing a place to live, and then find a church to go to, because that's what one does, right? After college, she had tried the Presbyterian churches, so when she first came to Salem, she did the same, but it wasn't quite right. Then a fellow teacher around 1975, 76, Donna Canning, mentioned a Unitarian Universalist church on 19th Avenue. And why didn't Marge go? Marge went and loved it. It didn't seem like church at all. There was a notebook where you signed your name and you were in. No membership classes, no pledges, a part-time minister who liked to have fun, and there was this singles group, which Marge immediately joined. They all had a great time. They'd go up to Portland, go to the opera or dinner, and then there'd be the yearly Easter retreat at Silver Creek Falls. Donna insisted that Marge go, in part because there's this guy that Donna thought Marge would like. No, it's not the Aurora college story. You still have to wait. Anyway, Marge and Donna went to the retreat, and in a room there were these 2 bunk beds, so they each took a bottom bunk. And wouldn't you know, the guy that Donna wanted Marge to meet was in the top bunk. Well, Donna was right again. Marge did like Dick French, and they got married and remained so for 39 years until Dick passed away. After the while, the church got a settled minister, Reverend Maureen Killeron. Under her, membership grew, and it started to feel like a real church. It grew to the point that they had to start thinking about building a new building, and here we are, sitting in that building today, even though the heat's not on. Coming to Unitarian Universalism just fit with where Marge was in her life. The world continued expanding for her. Music, art, learning about different cultures, and the UU principles all fit together and had meaning. Marge said she's stronger inside myself because of the UU approach to life. Difficulties in life usually is where these strengths show up, like the divorce from my first husband. I found strength I didn't know I had. That initial faith, hope that I was taught is still there. It's changed over the years, but it's still there. Growing up was positive. It always wound up okay. All right, you ready to hear the rest of the Aurora College story? Well, here it is in a nutshell. In college, she met this guy named Sid. They ran in the same social circles, and unbeknownst to either one of them, they had feelings for each other. Marge would tell friends that she wished Sid would ask her out, and Sid wanted to ask Marge out, but they were both connected to other people at the time. They both graduated and went on their way. Then, 80 years later, they are reacquainted up here in Oregon by a relative on Sid's side and decided they might as well move in together. It is love at an 80-year distance, and they are having a grand old time. Sid, at 101, helped Marge celebrate her 100th birthday here at UUCS on July 15th, 1923. And there they are in there. Just turn around. There they are. They made it. I didn't know if they would make it since it's so cold. So thank you for coming. All right. This is what Marge has to say about where she is now in her life. This is me now. Life is beautiful. Life is great. There's a quote on a birthday bedspread that she got that really sums it up for her. Behind you, all your memories. Before you, all your dreams. Around you, all who love you. Within you, all you need. Within you, all you need. Yes, That is right.
That's kind of a hard act to follow, isn't it? But we shall carry on. When Vicki Cunningham, Vicki, I saw you, there you are, Vicki's sitting right over here. When Vicki Cunningham was 16, she began questioning her Catholic faith, not a particularly uncommon occurrence for a high schooler. Sounds like some of you relate to that. Vicki came from a family with 7 siblings and was attending Catholic school in Mount Angel. The family attended church every Sunday, said the rosary with every dinner, and was assured that they'd end up in hell if they ever left the church. Pretty heavy stuff. So Vicki was pretty ingrained in the faith and culture of a Catholic upbringing. But at one point, one of her teachers, a priest actually, gave her a book and some lessons which encouraged his students to think for themselves, to look at faith in other ways. That lit up my head, said Vicki. By the time Vicki was in college at Oregon State, she had found that she just couldn't continue going to church when she just didn't believe. This discord made her extremely sad, and she often cried when she passed by a Catholic church. But in time, she discovered that some of her siblings had also questioned their faith. One made it plain. It just doesn't make sense. The stories don't make sense. Today, only one of the 7 siblings continues to practice Catholicism. Along the way, Vicki met Frank. They married in a Methodist church, moved to Drain, Oregon, and had 2 children. Moving to a small, tight-knit community with no church community she was comfortable with created a feeling of isolation. And contemplating a spiritual future for her children caused her to question possible choices. Vicki reached out to a sister who was actually attending a UU church in Portland, and she discovered that there was actually a UU church of the larger fellowship, church by mail. Who knew? She immediately subscribed and was sent a newsletter with 4 sermons each month, along with helpful tips for things to do with her children. The church by mail was a lifesaver, and the feeling of isolation was soon lessened. In time, Frank's work would bring them to Salem, where they bought a few lovely, really lovely acres just north of Kaiser. Vicki found part-time jobs with schools, and eventually she returned to school and earned her teaching license. In 1990, when the kids were still little, Vicki found UUCS. I was so happy to hear an adult voice talking about ideas and thrilled to learn about the religious education program, Vicki told us. She began volunteering at UUCS with another UU, Vicki Ross, to work on the bi-monthly newsletter. She remembers putting the newsletter on floppy disks. Remember floppy disks? A long time ago. And bringing it to the office to be printed. This was in the old building. She says she brought the kids who had to play quietly and nicely while she talked to the secretary. Millie Rochester was the RE director, so she reminded the kids that this was Millie's church. So the kids were quiet and respectful. Although Vicki didn't become a member of UUCS for 7 years, she stepped into a variety of essential roles. She has headed the RE team, which supports the RE director, and she taught in RE for a long time. She was a board member for 3 years, the vice chair and board chair, and she has served as chair of the communications team for many, many years. One of the biggest projects was assisting a team in transferring all of the website's information from the old program into the new one, which was quite an involved and complicated task. Vicki says that the communications team changes with talents and interests of the people involved, and while she has loved the work that she's done for the UUCS communications team, she'd be willing to step down. If anyone's interested, I'm sure you can just talk to Vicki and she'll show you what to do. Vicki tells us that she loves the work she's done for UUCS and she really enjoys the friendships she's made over the years. But she's most truly grateful for the religious exploration program where her kids learned about religion, where their experiences were positive and welcoming, and where Diana and Alan made friends and where they learned about life through the OWL program. Vicki Cunningham lights up when she talks about her experience with UUCS. It's as if she feels at home here. Thank you, Vicki.
As a little boy, Joel attended Sunday school at a Presbyterian church. One Sunday, the teacher asked the children to raise their hand if they had been baptized. All of the kids raised their hands except for Joel. The teacher pinned white hearts onto the front of each of the baptized children. Joel went home with a black heart. He was 5 years old. When his mother saw that her little boy was wearing a black heart, she was horrified, and they left the church. As Joel matured, he found that he couldn't swallow Orthodox Christian beliefs, so didn't attend for any length of time. He was very engaged in his professional life, teaching and supporting students, and got his credentials to teach high school English and speech. He also earned a master's degree in counseling and served as a counselor. He worked for 30 years in the Salem-Keizer school system, mostly at North Salem High School. When he retired, he discovered he couldn't stay away from what he loved to do, serving others, so he went back to work for another 7 years in Vancouver, Washington. Carolyn, Joel's wife, grew up in the Congregational church, where she loved singing in the choir. She was baptized at age 12, old enough to have some sense for what baptism meant. In her adult life, she also got involved supporting students by serving as a teacher's assistant for several years. What brought them to UUCS? One day, Carolyn made the decision to protect a dear friend who was in an abusive relationship. Joel readily agreed. Yes, the friend would move in with them for at least a couple of weeks. This friend invited the Woodmans to attend a service at UUCS, thinking they might enjoy it. She was right, and they joined in 2013. However, what really cemented their connection with UUCS was one person. You see, for the first 3 months of their attendance, no one had really reached out to them personally. Ted Dingman, a retired woodsman, befriended Joel and Carolyn, sitting and chatting with them during Super Sundays, one Sunday out of the month when everyone was invited for soup after the service. The power of friendship made the difference. Joel remembers a poignant moment during the UU membership class he took. Like others, he shared his journey to UUCS. As the class came to a close, someone passed to him a white napkin. It had been torn into the shape of a heart. When Joel talks about what is meaningful about UUCS, he says, all of it. The sense of community, the messages, the music, and especially the principle of compassion. For both Carolyn and Joel, the stained glass window is so special. It is mesmerizing like a kaleidoscope, but at the same time centers them to a focal point, the chalice and flame.
Settle into your seat. Take a breath in and out. And again in and out. We have heard many endearing stories today about members of this congregation. A small representative of all the wonderful and amazing gifts and talents that are brought into this congregation for the benefit of all. What drew these people to UU and then UUCS may be the same things that drew you here today. Free and independent religious exploration, a welcoming community of loving friendship, and a sanctuary to restore your spirit so that you feel the strength and courage to serve a hurting world as best you can. Pause a moment and in your mind, thank those who came before you for their generosity, and then thank yourself for the gifts you offer, including the gift of your presence today and every day. Amen.
Excuse me. As most of you know, in the spring, we each pledge what we can to help this congregation function. Like any well-run organization, it takes support from members to meet the budgetary demands, and the unfortunate news is that this year we are falling short of that goal. We urge you to continue to support as you are able our staff, our outreach, our lifespan religious education and youth programs, and our facilities need. And I'm thinking maybe you can toss a couple of bucks in the basket today for the heat and get the heat turned on. It's also our custom to extend a hand each month to a qualifying group or organization in our community. And since this is the 5th Sunday of the month, the Share the Plate recipient is our wonderful Lifespan Religious Education Program. we've been able to bring in a number of excited, interesting, wiggly, dancing, running around, and can I say it, pretty adorable children into our services. And we can share our UU values with them, and they can create fun crafts and explore the nature in our amazing park-like setting. Your generosity helps our LRE director, Molly, provide some really fun activities for this community's kids, such as an annual Easter egg hunt, which has been really successful, making Valentine's for our members, and a trunk and treat day, which I think happened yesterday in the parking lot here. We also give a portion of our weekly offering to the Marion Polk Food Share, and we have a little red wagon that will be coming up now in front that where you can contribute your food or money to the Marion Polk Food Share. If you didn't bring any food today, maybe next week you can remember to grab something out of your pantry to share. There are several ways to contribute to UUCS. Please notice that a basket will be passed today for today's offering, or you may go online to uusalem.org and find the donate button. And we thank you for your kind generosity.
I was in these meetings when we changed the order of service, and you'd think I would have it down by now. I think I was just into the music. That was beautiful. So next Sunday, Reverend Rick and Eric Schumann are going to be up here on the pulpit talking about marriage and love between human beings. What an unusual topic. I hope you all join. It'll be an important something to talk about. Also, I have a note for dues of the community. Two things. According to what I have read in the newsletter, the Friday email blast, the UU listserv, and Steve Oven is back there. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but the wonderful heating system and air conditioning system that is being put into the building, which will help us throughout the year, is supposedly, hopefully, going to be finished by next Sunday. Let's give him a round of applause. So thank you all for being brave, wearing your coats and sweaters, and coming out here and showing us that we are true Oregonians and we are true UU people. We will attend for anything. It's fabulous. The other thing you might notice about next week is that unfortunately we are still in that we are still one of the states that have to turn their clock back. So yeah, we for the past 3 years we keep hearing this will be the last year, but unfortunately we have to do it again this year. So don't forget to do that. Those of us that usually come will be here, but we want to make sure that we're here and you're here at the same time. So just be aware of that. And besides that, as I already mentioned, the newsletter, Friday email blasts. If you don't have that information, contact the office, get on the lists, and that is it. Thank you so much.
So Sarah will take the flame from our chalice to light the social justice and service candle as a reminder that we carry the light of our compassionate, engaged religion into the actions of our everyday lives. As we extinguish the chalices, let us remember that the flame we use in our services represents the talents and gifts that members of this congregation offer to help make this a community of love and acceptance.
In body or spirit, as you are able, as we sing our closing hymn, number 1058, Be Ours a Religion. We'll sing this song through 2 times.
So if you would like, please remain standing, and let's take a moment to thank everyone who was willing to share their stories today. If you don't know them, coffee hour is a great chance for you to meet the people that we've heard about today. May we carry their light with us as we continue on our own journey. And I want to express gratitude to all of the people who make this a vibrant, loving community. There are so many unsung heroes. Thank you to all of you. Please join me in saying our closing words. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours and in all the days to come.
Blessed be.
We can close our long program.
What?
We can close our long program.